Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And today, it's Mailbag Monday, where we answer the questions that you guys have submitted via our Instagram stories. And once again this week, we've had a record amount of submissions. So thank you to everyone who submitted a question. We'll answer a few of them here today. And they are very, very good indeed. So it's going to be a fun show. And for a fun show, I need a fun panel. Firstly, the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. How are things today, Clark?
I'm fired up to be here. You know I love Mailbag Monday. In the words of the great Steve from Blues Clues, we got a letter, and not only did we get one letter, we got multiple letters from the fans. We appreciate it every single time. Can't wait to answer the questions. Can't wait to get into it. I'm stoked to be here as usual. Happy Monday, everyone.
Happy Monday indeed, and happy Monday to Bobby Petito, who is in the comments today. Welcome to the show. Also joining us, we have the head of reviews here at Wrestling Republic, the man who's had a super busy past 2 weekends, Coby Galenzoski. How are you today, Coby?
We just got a letter, and I wonder who it's from at the end of the day. We are here for Mailbag Monday. We got questions. We're still reeling from Fastlane. There's not really many Fastlane topics to talk about, but here we are. I'm ready to talk wrestling. It's always fun to talk wrestling on Monday. It's pre-Raw, not pre-SmackDown, not pre-NXT. We know this is definitely a weirder week for wrestling because of the show dates, but it's going to be a fun week, and it always is.
Absolutely, it will be. And last but certainly not least, we have the head of opinions here at Wrestling Republic. It's a show full of heads of departments here today. Anthony Ricciardi, how are you, Anthony?
Doing all right, Ben. I didn't have a Blues Clues reference being called out today, so I mean, leave it to Clark to throw in something that I'm not expecting. But I'm looking forward to. It's rare that I do a Mailbag Monday, so I'm looking forward to answering some questions and us talking about wrestling.
Let's get right into things, because we have a question from @Jose99, who is asking, should anyone else join Bobby Lashley's faction, and if so, who? Of course, so far, it's Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, and this past Saturday at Fastlane, they lost to the LWO, something which I wasn't particularly a fan of, but perhaps this is just a way to introduce somebody new into the faction. We've literally just today seen Dragon Lee officially called up and been put on the SmackDown roster, so they're not opposed to calling guys up in the middle of the year randomly. So who knows? I mean, a name which we saw teased months ago was Carmelo Hayes. Maybe Carmelo Hayes is getting a call up and he's going to be the fourth guy here. They've seemingly abandoned, well, at least in terms of the North American Championship, the storyline between him and Trick. That's what we all wanted to see. That's what I think they should do still. I think you're leaving money on the table. If they don't do that, I think that's how elevate, Trick Williams to that next level before Carmelo, does get called up. But maybe this is, a way to introduce him to the main roster and chuck him in that faction. Anthony, I'll start with you. Do you think anybody needs to join this faction? And if so, who?
I think Bianca would benefit from joining the stable. I think she needs a heel run. Towards the end of her title reign, it was stale. We all thought she was going to lose to Asuka at Mania, because it was being so stale. I'd turn her heel and let her run with it. If you're not going to do her, I think a female needs to be in there. I don't think it would be Jade, because I think they're going to push her as a face, and we don't know which brand she's going to go on. But I think Bianca is a heel with her husband, with the Street Profits. I think you could make a run with that.
I'd really like to see that. I really, really do like that idea. And Bobby Petito saying in the comments, maybe a female wrestler. So yeah, that could well be Bianca Belair. I'm not opposed to that one bit. I mean, what about you, Kobe? Would you like them to go down that route?
I 100% believe that's the route you can go for. I don't necessarily think you need another male superstar because then you kind of have your top guy, you have your team. You don't really need a mid card because Lashley's not in the main event. We're not seeing a Lashley versus Roman feud anytime soon. We're not seeing he's not in the position to where we can afford another mid card wrestler in there. Of course, the female role is good. I think she took off time. She has a right to be mad when she returns. She got cashed in on. You have a bona fide rivalry already built in her versus Io Sky. Io Sky, rightfully so, probably should be the face in that if they run it back. We saw what happened in Backlash, and I believe the championship run she had was incredibly weird because she had a historical reign, but Mania didn't lose it at Mania, and then she was such a anti crowd had such an anti crowd at Backlash. My original answer was going to be I think we can confidently say Bianca Belair was going to join, but I do have to kind of add difference to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I would be interested to see if they have other working relationships. Now we see there's a couple free agents that aren't necessarily tied to a brand. Obviously, they kind of dropped that after the brands after the original draft. They were kind of rolling with okay, these people are free agents; they can show up wherever they want. Now they really don't do that ideal anymore. I almost wonder if there would be a representative like maybe Omos is occasionally in the group. I don't know if that would be my move, the move I would make, but I think you could argue putting Omos in it even temporarily. You could do the same for Odyssey Jones because he was called up and he's not really doing much. I think you could also argue Cedric Alexander to be in that role of maybe a temporary member. Well, and like you said, you can also connect someone like Trick or Carmelo into this because they teased Trick or Carmelo or at least talking to Lashley earlier this year.
Yeah, no, I mean that is an excellent point there, Kobe. The only thing which I did want to touch on is you said about Bobby Lashley and maybe not getting a match against Roman Reigns. They haven't done that match during the Roman Reigns Championship reign, have they?
It's time.
Nope. It's 100% a possibility, and I believe they should be doing that match, but I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that until after WrestleMania if Roman's still champion.
Yeah.
Like I think Roman's in the position where he's feuding with his bloodline until WrestleMania.
Yeah,
so I don't think we're getting that match right now. Which it's a match we haven't got.
That sucks.
Unless it happened
on
the live event the one time.
That does suck if that is the case, because I really hope we do get to see that match. Styles versus Reigns and Lashley versus Reigns are two matches in this title reign I think we should have got, which we haven't had. But Clark, what about you? Do you think anyone else should join Bobby Lashley's faction? And if so, who?
So absolutely yes. And I've maybe borderline overthought this entire situation because I'm such a huge fan of both Lashley and the Profits. And my heart initially told me Bianca Belair. It makes so much sense. But I kept thinking that I'm missing something. I'm missing someone. And I do think there's three that need to be added. And there's an entire story arc to be told here that elevates every member of this group. And I think the woman to join this group is Jade Cargill to start. And Jade feuds with Bianca, which buys us enough time for Trick and Mello to be called up and added to the group, at which point the Street Profits turn on the group because they're sick of Jade beating up, who we previously mentioned, Bianca Belair, Montez Ford's wife. And we see Bianca and the Street Profits as baby faces challenging Jade Cargill, Carmelo Hayes, and Trick Williams in a six-person tag And then from there, Bobby Lashley is elevated as the leader of the group to the main event scene with Roman Reigns through his own singles work, and he's got Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes by his side, as well as Jade Cargill in a feud with them. I love that. As far as I'm concerned, I think that's how we debut Jade. Jade, you can even tell a story of Jade and Bobby getting jealous of who's the actual leader of the group, because we know Jade's personality too. That could be outstanding. But I think at first it ends up being Jade, the Profits, and Bobby. You slide Trick and Mello into the equation, at which point the Profits get tired of Bianca being picked on by Jade Cargill. And that's the way that I would go with this, because a lot of people get refreshed in this situation, and I'm ready to see the red cups fall from the ceiling again.
The thing is, I don't mind that idea. I really don't. I think you made a ton of great points, but if they just turned them heel, like I kind of want this to. I mean, I don't know how long you want Jay to be involved. If that is
that's
maybe
where
like a
I think
6-month thing, or
because we have to finish the stories that Trick and Carmelo are in the middle of right now on NXT.
yeah.
So I do think there is a period of time where we have Jade, the Profits, and Bobby. So the heel run is 6 more weeks in my eyes, right? 5 to 6 more weeks. Finish telling the stories with Trick and Mello. Then Trick and Mello maybe start getting involved on behalf of whatever we're calling the group, whether it's the Wall Street Profits or whatever it may be, the Hurt Business 2.0. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily matter. Jade's the first big addition, and then now you kind of have a super group with all of them, but very quickly that's when you see the Profits kind of getting sick of. And I think it has to be Jade has a feud initially when she joins the group, not with Bianca, and then when she starts feuding with Bianca is when the Profits start to go like, hang on, no, I don't like this. Then you add Carmelo and Trick, and you can have that 6-person tag or something like variations of that rivalry for a little bit, and elevate Bobby Lashley towards the main event scene. Once you pay off the Profits and Trick Williams and Mello and Jade, they feud with the Bloodline for a short period of time through the late winter and early next year. And then we hit Mania season and have a lot of things to play with as far as the tag division is concerned. You have Mello and Trick kind of as a tag team at first. I think wouldn't hurt either one, because I think they work amazing together on the main roster, and chasing the tag team titles will be fun. And I do believe that this Jay and Cody run with the titles isn't going to last super long. Not that they're not really good, but I just don't see them carrying it for months on end. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me for the tag division. So yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. I would love if they did something like that. And it's a great way to introduce Jade. It's a great way to refresh Bianca. And it's an even better way to introduce both Trick and Carmelo to the equation. And there's just so many different matches you can have week in and week out to continue to tell that story along with promos and segments. I think there's a lot there, and inserting Jade in there, because Jade and Bianca to me is a bit borderline a dream match.
Yeah,
and that is athletically speaking, it's as good as you can ask for. Two unbelievable world-class athletes in a wrestling ring at the same time. I would be very, very excited to see Jade Cargill versus Bianca.
Yeah, I mean, literally, Shard said that exact same thing about Bianca Cargill dream match. And then some people in the comments like, oh no, it's not, and now everybody's saying it. It's like sometimes it's like we're a week ahead of everyone else. Anyway,
I hear you there. I agreed with Shot at the time when he said it. Is the
I did. I think it's like I don't know how you can't. But anyway, let's now move on, and let's move on to the next question, which this is a non-wrestling question, so it'll be a bit of a brief one, I think. But it's sort of linked to wrestling because it's involving current WWE superstar Logan Paul, who will be facing Dylan Dennis in a boxing fight this weekend. And this question submitted by Danny Phantom 04. I think this is, a fight which a lot of people are excited about, and it's a fight which has been, it's got a real build for it, professional wrestling-esque build. With, of course, Dylan Dennis using some, I guess, heel methods over on the app formerly known as the Bird app, now known as X. And yeah, I mean, it's personal between these two. I don't think there's anything storyline about it. But I mean, Logan Paul has to win this one. He really, really does. But Clark, will he?
I have no doubt that Logan wins this. He's bigger. And honestly, boxing wise, I actually think he has as much experience as Dylan Dennis. Dylan Dennis is a grappler. He's really good. If this was a jiu-jitsu match, like it's a different story. But I mean, it's boxing, and I have no doubt Logan uses his length. He sticks, he moves, he's in there. He hung in there with Floyd Mayweather. Yes, he had a huge size advantage. He'll have a similar size advantage in this one. I don't think he puts him away. He doesn't have the punching power of his brother, but he's technical enough. He's smart enough in the ring. He's slick enough. I think he'll avoid Danis's punches. I think we'll see some shenanigans, some extra clinching out of Danis, maybe some headbutt type stuff, trying to get inside, use his grappling acumen to use leverage to sway the fight in that way. But if this gets to the cards, I think Logan wins comfortably.
Yeah, no, I mean, fair enough. I mean, that is, I'm gonna be honest with you, I completely agree. In fact, I think Logan Paul might get a knockout. I really do. I don't think Dylan Dennis. I mean, maybe I'm underestimating him.
I think we're going to see a lot of earmuffs out of Dennis.
Yeah.
And so he'll be really hard to put away because of the length advantage. While it benefits him as far as not getting hit, he will be in range at times where Dennis is not in this fight. And Dennis not being a boxer is unlikely to let his hands go in those situations where he's out of range and Logan's in range. So he's going to do a lot of beating up his forearms, which is positive, right? I mean, that wears anyone out and it takes the power out of the other person's punches. But that's why I don't see a finish personally.
Good point, to be fair. I mean, and this does link back to your point as well, why he might even just go completely defensive. I do not know how much Dylan Dennis has trained for this compared to Logan Paul in regards to Dylan Dennis is spending most of his days on social media. Like, you can't be tweeting on or posting on X while in the boxing ring. You know, if you're in the gym, you can be doing it between reps or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But in the ring, you can't. So I know, obviously we all know Logan Paul, he trains like a madman. So I really cannot see a way Dylan Dennis wins. But who knows, maybe there will be a big shock on the cards. Bobby Petito is asking, when do you think we will see Logan Paul again in WWE? Coby, of course, said on the show the other day that he thinks we could have Reigns versus Logan Paul at Crown Jewel, so maybe even as early as next week.
I said Rollins.
Sorry, not Roman Reigns. I meant Rollins. So as soon as Raw next Monday, I guess. But I personally think he'll need a recovery.
I think nearly immediately in a promo capacity. I think he'll cut a promo.
I think especially he might want a month off with his wife.
If he wins dominantly,
well, not wife, soon.
If he wins dominantly, and he doesn't take very much damage, like that's only a couple days of recovery as opposed to like a full week after a boxing match where it's more back and forth. If he does win dominantly, I don't see any reason he's not on either Raw next week or the week after.
I don't mean though health-wise. I mean in terms of, I don't want to speculate here, but let's be real about, Dylan Dennis's tweets and all that. It's probably put a little bit of a,
This is Dylan Dennis.
It's probably put a bit of a thing on his, relationship in terms of him and his wife, probably soon to be wife, probably spent a couple of weeks alone, I reckon, before Logan Paul does anything else. Because I feel bad for her in this situation in terms of, she's totally not in this fight and she's been getting most of the stick for it.
I totally agree, but I'll also say, this is what Logan Paul signed up for and does, and this is what makes him so great in the professional wrestling space. This whole acting like Dylan Dennis is a big old threat. It makes no sense. Dylan Dennis is a professional troll and a semi-professional fighter with a very good grappling acumen, but it's not like he's not fighting Tommy Fury. He's not fighting a boxer. He's not fighting. KSI is a better boxer than Dylan Dennis. Dylan Dennis was Conor McGregor's grappling coach, and everybody in the world knows Conor McGregor can't grapple. He's not even good at what he's good at. It's one of those things that the guy has talked his way into a situation, and Logan should steamroll him, and then I think his health will be completely fine. Also, he has the size advantage, the technique advantage, all of that. Dylan Dennis somehow got his payday by doing this, and Logan, maybe a week and a half, but I don't see, if not next Monday, the Monday after, why Logan
Right.
wouldn't be available, because this should be light work. And knowing Logan Paul's strength as far as understanding what he gets himself into promotionally and stuff like this, I don't see a reason he doesn't bounce back quickly. Even as gnarly as the stuff she said.
I don't think he thought he was getting this bad. I don't think he thought. I think Logan thought he was going to come to him about the Japan stuff, all that. I don't think he thought he was going to come to him about his soon-to-be wife.
I get
think
it, but
that's
even then, it's boxing, it's combat sports, it's part of the deal.
It's the fight game.
I mean, it is what it is, and he's in it, right? He's a promoter. Logan isn't just a
Yeah.
fighter; he's more promoter than he is fighter. And I'm not saying that as a knock. I actually do think he's relatively skilled as a boxer. He clearly knows what he's doing, but at the end of the day, he's a promoter. And so, if you're a promoter and you're promoting your own fight, and you don't expect it to go that far, then I mean, what are you doing here? And he's done it enough times that I don't think this is something that's going to deeply affect him after he steamrolls the kid.
Well, talking about, promoting fights, we've been promoting our tournament lately, our best wrestler tournament, best WWE Superstar tournament, and the results came out last night where it was, it was announced that Seth Rollins won the tournament against Roman Reigns, a 51% to 49% margin, so 1% margin, right? That's how much, well, technically 2%. Seth Rollins won by in the end. Crazy thin. Crazy. I think we had about 8,000 votes in the final. It was just craziness, that alone. And it was really marginal. At times I thought both men were going to do it, but Seth, in the end, has been voted by you guys as the best WWE superstar over on our Instagram. But at 5Kings88 is asking, is Seth Rollins really better than Roman Reigns? Anthony, as the head of opinions, what do you think about this one? Is Seth Rollins better than Roman Reigns?
You really put me on the hot spot here, aren't you?
Yep.
This is all subjective, and quite frankly, it depends on what you're judging him on. If you're judging them on in-ring talent-wise, just matches and stuff like that, Seth is definitely more versatile than Roman is. Seth is very much like a Shawn Michaels. If you're talking about pure star power, that's where it gets more competitive, in my opinion. I mean, we were there at WrestleMania and the night after WrestleMania where the crowd was literally singing Seth's song through an entire commercial break, which nobody from home would know that, but they never stopped. The entire crowd sang Seth's song during the entire commercial break on Raw. They're both incredibly over. The two-thirds of the Shield, they said they were going to take over this business, and they did. They are two of the most important people in WWE and in wrestling in general. However, if I'm going to pick based on just the dominance and the storytelling for the past 3 years, I think you got to go Roman. The most dominant champion in the business. The most compelling story. I know he's not there very often, but when he is there, it matters. And at the end of the day, he's the face of the company. And, I don't know if there's a better way to describe it. When we were there at Mania, I don't know about you guys, but when Roman came out, there was an aura around him, in my opinion. Like, he looked like this is the face of the company. This is a big deal. When he came out, the way the crowd responded and just the overall presence, like, this is the Roman that Vince envisioned when everyone was booing like crazy when he was getting pushed. I think this is the Vince knew that this was what ultimately he wanted, probably wanted him as a face, but this is the Roman. I think they're both incredibly talented. I think they're two of the best of all time. But if I'm choosing between the two right now with this run, I got to go Roman. But I do think Seth is adding value to a new world title, which is what needed to be done. But whoever beats Roman, whether it's Cody or whoever beats Roman for that title, is going to get made because of the 3-year plus build of him being this champion that's beaten everybody.
No, that's a great perspective. on things for sure. I mean, this is actually what a lot of the people in the comments are saying, because they were saying, well, what's the criteria for this? And I mean, my point of it was leave it to the fans, because even if we give a criteria, like, not everybody whose vote is going to look at that. So I think if we give a criteria, it muddies the water. No. So I was like, just let fans decide for themselves. And in the end, Seth Rollins, did get it 51%. But the Aura thing, you're completely right about. I've seen Roman in this title reign, 3 times now. I saw him at Clash last year. The Aura was amazing then. It was shocking. Mania, the Aura was even better. And then at Money in the Bank, the Aura was the same level again. It's crazy. He feels like a megastar.
I think it's a testament to his ability to set boundaries, because coming out of the pandemic, he came back with, I'm going to do this. I'm going to show up this many times. It's going to be this way. Heel with Heyman. That on top of what he's created bell to bell, storytelling wise, and keeping himself off TV, as much as we like to complain about it, does make him more valuable every time he shows up.
It's true.
I hate to admit that, but it's the truth. I would love to see him every week. Of course I would. Are you kidding me? He's an unbelievable generational talent, as we all like to say in wrestling. But at the end of the day, so what? He doesn't show up every week, because when he does, it matters. It's going to matter, and something's going to happen. And that aura and that ability to set boundaries backstage with, I mean, he missed that match with Goldberg. They had to throw Braun in there out of the bullpen, right? During the pandemic. And then he comes back and it's wreck everything and leave. And it's Heyman. And it's been so long now, but it feels like so short because of the limited appearances. And that's the brilliance. He makes himself feel special by drawing the boundary that you can only have me certain times, certain places. And when I show up, you better too. Because if you're a fan of pro wrestling, it's going to matter.
I think another part to look at with this is the Paul Heyman factor. Because conveniently, he was also the manager of Brock. And the complaints were Brock was never there. And Paul would say he's a prize fighter. He comes in for the big shows. And I think a lot of ways it's the same thing. And I said to you to you privately, Ben, I think Paul Heyman, when all is said and done, he is the MVP of this bloodline story. Yeah. Just the reactions that he's having, even now, like his hair is now gray. Like he's wearing the stress of this bloodline story.
Oh, it's great.
It's just great. Like, and then if somebody else comes in, a former Paul Heyman client, I think Paul's going to lose his hair by the end of this. If that other person comes in that we're all expecting. I think that would be the ultimate. Again, whose side are you on, Paul? Are you on mine, or are you on the voice of the voiceless? Which one are you on?
Oh, that would really muddy the waters, and that would be very interesting indeed. But talking about losing hair, a lot of professional wrestling fans lost hair during when Jinder Mahal won the WWE Championship a few years ago. Not many people were happy about that, were they? I'm going to be honest with you. At the time, I said I liked it, and I still stand by that, purely because, it was just, things started to feel a little bit samey. He comes in, and everyone's like, what? They usually, develop stars, then push them, and then they'll get a championship. Jinder Mahal, out of nowhere, has just returned, wins the WWE Championship in a match nobody expected him to win. I thought it was brilliant. Now, the title reign wasn't great. That was the issue, right? Even the Jinder Mahal gimmick I thought was great. I thought Jinder's performance was fantastic. And admittedly, I knew how much work, because I was friends with somebody who knew him very closely. I knew how much work he was putting in during that time and how much he deserved it and how much it meant to him, which maybe influences, maybe there's a bit of bias there, I don't know. But honestly, I really thought that Jinder Mahal worked fantastically during that reign. I just thought some of the writing was a bit naff for it. But overall, I like the fact that it happened. But and I'm so sorry, I'm definitely butchering this name. So sorry about this. At Shabam Rasik on Instagram is asking, what are our thoughts on Jinder Mahal Kobe? What is your thoughts on the modern day Maharaja?
I mean, the weakest world championship reign that I have ever seen as being a part of a fan for the last, over 12 years. I haven't seen a world championship where it felt like it didn't matter. Yes, the presentation, I like the presentation. The entrance was really good. He had the managers that could get tossed around for the face to get the pops. We saw Jinder Mahal. Like Jinder Mahal, I don't want to say he looked like a champion but he did. He carried the championship. He was wearing a suit. He looked presentable. But at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, and you said he worked hard, that doesn't show up on screen. The full title reign. I don't think this is one of the crappiest reigns I've seen personally. It became a meme among my friend group. Like my friend became a Jinder Mahal fan because he beat his favorite Randy Orton. It was funny. It was a failed experience. I know that, man. At the end of the day, I think he's someone that if you need a good hand, he can work, but I don't think he's someone you could never put a big title on him. I don't think you could put a mid-card title on him and he can have an entertaining reign. Obviously that goes hand in hand with the writing, but I don't know how I would say he's definitely overrated based off of that year because he was put in a position and then I think he won the US title the year after and I don't know. I physically don't see much value in Jinder Mahal. But yeah, we had the Punjabi prison match where Great Khali had to help him, and Great Khali could barely walk.
That was awful.
They've never had a good one. I mean, the fact that Khali got hurt and they had to just throw the Big Show in there, they're like, we're still doing it. Big Show and Undertaker climbing around,
there, it'll be fine.
Climbing around on bamboo. It was like, yeah, no, this will be great.
I mean, no,
it was designed for like the Young Bucks and freaking some other high flyers. It was not designed for two giants.
Jinder Mahal's reign, I thought, was booked very, very poorly. But I feel like people don't realize how talented he actually is. But this is a big conversation for another day, a full-blown debate. But we have another full-blown debate we need to get into right now because it's the topic of a lot of conversation right now. And that is the AEW Collision ticket sales. We saw the photos this week. Well over half of that arena was just empty. And it's not like it's a one-off. If it's a one-off, some cities aren't into it, whatever. It's almost weekly now at this point. Dynamite's ticket sales are down to next week. AEW Collision tickets are going for like $10, and they're like decent seats as well. Like it's not good, is it, really? And it comes back to what I said months ago. I do not think there is enough demand for another 2-hour weekly wrestling TV show. I do not. I don't think people have that time in their schedule. I don't think there are enough wrestling fans in this day and age for there to be like, well, some of them will come over from WWE. That's true, but I don't think that's enough to, warrant, the big numbers that they want. The 600, 700K they want per week. They're currently getting 300K, right? And I get the entire thing. It's Saturday night. That's a difficult night for TV ratings. They would have known that when they signed it. I mean, Tony Khan, when they did the Collision announcement, said it's going to be a great day for ticket sales because everybody is out. Well, that in itself shows that from the start they knew TV ratings wouldn't be that great. But it's like, well, what other day could you do it? There is no other option. So either the demand is there or it isn't. So if you're going to do it on a Saturday and, the TV ratings aren't going to be where you're going to earn your money, then you better sell tickets and you better sell merch. We don't know the merch sales because they don't release that information, but we can see the ticket sales and they are not good. I very simply don't think the demand is there. I really do think CM Punk leaving hurt it because he was the identity behind Collision. I mean, the branding, all of it, he was the face of that. He's no longer there. I think that's tarnished it in a lot of fans' eyes. I do think the reason why maybe AEW has lost some of its, steam at the minute is people were just so tired and exhausted from all the childish drama, which now has been sorted out. It's all good now. But I feel like that maybe did exhaust a lot of fans, and perhaps they lost some of them because of it. Here's the interesting thing. WWE's on fire at the minute. Fastlane's the highest performing Fastlane premium live event of all time. They're basically breaking their own records every month, WWE right now. So the wrestling business is doing fine. It's not the business. This is specifically an AEW issue, specifically AEW Collision, because the Dynamite rating, guys, despite what people were exaggerating this last week, the Dynamite rating's still fine. There's nothing to worry about there. The Collision rating is the concern, and ticket sales are also a concern too. Clark, I know the other day you were supportive of them with this. Do you still support it?
Still am, yeah, absolutely. And one thing I will say as well is you look at the records being broken on Fastlane, that's on a streaming service, Peacock, that's not pay-per-view buys. They don't get any sort of financial kick or boost for doing more views on that. That contract's been long signed with Peacock for showing that deal. So the ratings are only a reflection of success. They are not a financial gain. The ratings are the same as far as, even though they're negative on Collision, they're getting paid whatever their contract says they're getting paid for being on the network. The ticket sales is more concerning. I absolutely understand where you're coming from there. I would also say odd time of the year. And yes, while I understand Saturday being a tough time slot for ratings, I do disagree on it being a tough time slot for tickets. Saturday night is a night you would go to an event with your family or friends or whatever it may be. I do think the addition of Adam Copeland, a little bit of roster turnover, as you mentioned, with CM Punk and drama, it has played a role here in the late summer into the early fall. But from here on out, if we have consistent stars booked on the billboard, on the marquee for Collision, I am not overly worried, not overly panicked. I think this is a situation where the storm needed to be weathered. Sometimes that happens as a business where you do hit a tough time, for lack of a better way to put it, right? I mean, it's happened to WWE. We saw what happened during the Monday Night Wars against WCW. 83 weeks, as Eric Bischoff likes to say. Shout out my good friend Eric Bischoff. It's happened to everybody. It happens to businesses all the time. It's whether they weather the storm and they pick themselves up off the canvas or they don't. I think they can. I think they're in a situation where they still can for sure. Headed to the winter, it depends on where they're touring. Without question, it depends on the size of the buildings. But I anticipate headed into the late fall, early winter, that the ratings will jump back up to a more manageable level, and they'll have an easier time selling tickets, especially given that there's better direction as far as the roster size, who's on it, booking is concerned, storytelling is concerned. Things like that will sell tickets on top of which markets they are in and arena size as well. But I do think that it's on AEW to bounce back, but I don't think it's hit the panic button, pull the cord right now. It's a failure. I absolutely don't believe that, because if they'd have done that with Monday Night Raw and moved it to a different night, we'd be telling a heck of a different story about the late 90s. If it had happened in other scenarios with Nitro, we'd be telling a different story. Of course, right? So there's both sides is my point there. Nitro could have moved nights and didn't, away from Raw. Once Raw retook the lead, did not do so, right? They kept chasing that. There's no competition on Saturdays. They're competing, direct competition as far as in wrestling, right? There's college football.
Well, there is, because there's premium live events pretty much every week.
There's premium live events, not every week.
Not every week, but
but once a month.
So once a month plus
there
NXT.
is competition. So you still have, so you have a quarter of the month, you have competition on Saturday, and there's not even direct crossover if you move the time slot like you did this week. I understand the ratings are down, but I say no reason to hit the panic button, and that there's definitely room for them to get off the canvas and really get it going again. And I think a lot of it had to do with, like you said, roster turnover, especially CM Punk drama. And again, it's a weird time of year for a weird time slot on Saturday, but tickets wise, that's the most concerning part, well before ratings is on a Saturday night slot.
If this was the beginning of a 5-year deal, I'd say, Clark, you are absolutely right here. And I still do. I think you're right in many things you said, including, I don't think they should hit the panic button. But here's the thing. Their TV deal's up next year.
Right.
This is why ratings currently do matter for them.
You do have 1 year. and if you show growth, that's
I don't know
almost
if- I
as
don't know if it's a
valuable
full
as
year.
showing consistency.
Is it a
Even
full
if
year or is it a few
If
months?
it's 6 to 8 months,
Yeah, it will
you're
be that
looking
long. It
at.
will be
I mean,
that long,
they
yeah.
definitely signed in the spring, so June, I believe, was the.
No. I believe it was added onto the Dynamite deal. So the Collision deal was added on to the Dynamite deal, I believe, was
That
what
wouldn't
was
make
said.
sense. But I mean, maybe that's possible. I'm not saying it's not true. I just that to me
I
doesn't add up.
believe that's what TK said on a podcast.
I almost think it's like one of those pilot type things. We're going to give you
Yeah.
this number of episodes to do the show. I think that's how the Collision thing worked. Just in general, and I've said this before, the Saturday is a tough slot. We've said that before. The Battle of the Belts that they've done, those specials, they've been disasters ratings wise. So they should have known, all right, we're doing these specials and we're not getting good ratings on them. So they should know that going in with the competition. I'm not as concerned with the TV ratings, just for the simple fact that the attendance to me is the bigger issue for them. Because unlike WWE, which I think WWE this day, I mean, they all want sold out shows. It doesn't matter what company it is. But I think WWE mostly relies on that TV money. AEW is not in that position yet to get that major TV money where it's not a concern. The fact that they're not drawing people, both Collision and Dynamite, as we've seen photos every week, and you could clearly tell, even if you don't see the photos, they're only showing one side of the arena. A lot of it's dark. That's a concern. Like, for them as a company, that has to be a concern. I get you're backed by a billionaire. So it's not as concerning as, let's say, Impact or one of these lower tier companies that's like really every nickel and every dime has to be concerned. They could float for a while. As long as Tony wants to do it and the Khan family wants to continue to support it, they can do it. But it is absolutely concerning that they're not drawing people to these shows. And it's a shame because they'll do a great show, but it all depends on where the show's at. You got to do it in these hot places. You can't do it in Chicago every week.
Right.
You can't do it in Philly every week. You can't do it in these major markets every week. But they need to figure something out. Maybe run smaller buildings. I know that's a complaint that Impact gets all the time. Like, why are they running smaller buildings? Would you rather a full building and it be smaller, or would you rather have a bigger building with nobody there? To me, it's much more offensive to see a full building that's empty than, a smaller building that has full capacity, to me. And that's just my take.
I do want to add one thing, though, about the lighting, and that I've noticed from going to Dynamites and All Out for 3 years now. At least at All Out, and then even the LA Dynamite, they theater light the floor seats in the ring, and they turn off the arena lights. But they turn off the arena lights on above the crowd a little bit, like so the Lakers do the same for the floor in the NBA games. It's a different set of lights. It's theater lit.
And NXT
so the floor seats are lit, and then the floor seats are lit, and the ring is lit. But around the arena, I've never been to an event where it was lit, even when it's been at capacity. Like All Out 21 was capacity, and it just wasn't.
Well, that was
in fairness, though, the collision lighting is completely different. Though
it is the collision lighting,
but
I do. No, I agree.
To quickly give Kobe before we pause it, Kobe, before we run out of time. But Matt Williams, comment of the century. I'll take the chance to talk to a girl about current events in a dive bar.
Hey, I wasn't watching wrestling at 22 years old either. By the way, I'm
watching Lucha House Party. But, oh gosh, Kobe, very quickly, what do you think about this?
I want to say I do fully agree with Anthony's position where, like, I'd rather see a smaller building that looks like it's packed to the brim than a 30% filled big arena that WWE would be able to fill. At the end of the day, I don't think the ticket sales isn't just Collision, but I agree with Clark. Clark said Saturday nights, the time you'd be going out, whether you're a solo act or, hey, nobody's working, let's go out, let's go to the bar, let's go to a restaurant. These are nights where they should be selling tickets, and the trend is going down. I hope they go up. I'm not going to say I hope they stay down. I'm not one of the guys who want AEW to fail in this case, but at the end of the day, the ticket sales don't look great, and they aren't. Yes, the lighting's different. Yes, we can see that they have to go to a certain amount of the arena. It's completely weird, and not weird, but I think it's a different position where it's like I don't know how big of I don't think it has much of a role to the TV rights than it does just their own ticket sales and their own trend and how hot of a crowd they could get. What I fear is it just becomes another Rampage, and I think that's right now. That's the trend is going. It's already there, nearly there. I hope they turn it around. They need to turn it around, but that's the result that matters.
No, absolutely, Cobb. I couldn't agree more. Let's hope, they get it back together, and hopefully they will. Like you said, Clark, time will hopefully be their friend on this one. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the show, please like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a cheeky 5 stars on Spotify. Thank you to Clark, thank you to Anthony, and thank you to Coby for joining me here today. It's been a banger of a show. We will be back the same time tomorrow for the Raw review. We will see you guys then. Enjoy your evening. Thank you for watching.
You're welcome.